actually have three available, but one of them, I thought I had sent one to my daughter. She said I never did. So, and she's into all this dark stuff too. So I'm going to send her one. So I do have two that are sealed that I can sell if anybody wants them.
All right, awesome. All right, so we are live. So we'll let everybody get at the notification, see who can start streaming in here.
Oh,
So everybody that's in here, hello. Thanks for
is there
coming.
is there anybody in here? I don't see any comments yet.
There's no comments, but I can see we got 4 people over
Oh,
there
well, say
so far.
something. Hi, say something.
Y'all
Or
talk.
put on my teeth.
You said
So
the station
Brad,
down to 2. You see what
Brad
happened?
brought in my ornaments today, so I started putting ornaments on the tree today.
Oh, that's good. I have no ornaments on my tree. It's just a tree right now.
The one behind you? Hello, Nancy.
No, I've got one in the living room. Hey,
Okay.
Nancy.
Hi, Crystal.
Hello,
Crystal is
Holland.
Crystal
Oh,
Holland
that's
is
right,
Crystal
Crystal.
Heaven Bound Farms. What, are you going to come sit with us?
Probably not. Hi there. I just can't really say much other than, yeah, this is another dead person.
I love this book. I love this book. To me, this book is very special. When I found this book, I was like, oh my God, must have. And I've
It
had
is
my copy.
fantastic.
I think I've had my copy for probably 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, I was going to look in this one and see. Okay. It was printed.
See, the original came out, and then you couldn't get your hands on it. And there was actually one on eBay that I watched for a while, and they were asking like $100 for it or something like that. Then I think they reprinted it, and it came out with a more reasonable cost. I don't
This
think
one's saying
mine's.
it was published by California State University, 8th edition, 2022. So this one's really new.
Let's see. I can
Hey,
read it.
Linda. So tonight, guys, it is.
Oh, see, mine is 2013. Yeah, it looks like
at the top I've got 2013, and underneath it I've got 2022. I don't know.
Oh no, see, actually, okay, this is 2013, but then it goes into 3rd U.S. edition 2015. So mine was published 2015.
So welcome anybody that's coming in. Tonight we are talking about, we're going to take a deep dive into Beyond the Dark Veil. This book is absolutely fantastic. Tammy Renee actually gifted me this one when she came to visit me for my birthday, and I was so ecstatic with it. And hey, Dana. And Margo said that she has a couple of copies still left. If anybody's interested in purchasing one, she's got those available tonight. So if you don't have this and you are interested in all of the Victorian age and then a little past that, the whole death, the whole romanticism of death, all of that kind of thing, you need to get yourself a copy because you will thoroughly enjoy it. I have enjoyed it so much. The pictures inside, amazing. And I've marked a few things that I think are just fantastic. Hey, Mary.
Hi, Mary Dugan. And I have marked absolutely nothing in mine. I was going to try to take some time and go through it after Jeana and I started talking about it again, but I haven't. It's just a fascinating book just to even flip through. But Jeana, I know she's marked some things that we can talk about. And I was talking to my mother actually on the phone a little bit ago. I was telling her about doing this deep dive with you on this. And what is so fascinating to me is the way that they did this, I think, very, very tastefully. And you would see the postmortem photography of, like, my mother brought this up, of like the outlaws and stuff after they, got shot or hung or whatever they did with them. But the thing that is the way that they do like family portraits and stuff, and you have a hard time telling who the deceased person in the photograph actually is. They were so good at doing it. Dana Grace has a copy she got from me a while back. Yeah. Hi, Robin.
So the first thing I marked in my copy, which I love the entire thing, but the first thing I wanted to point out was part of the deathbed pre-mortem section, which is one of the first section, I believe. Yeah. And mine, which is probably close to yours. Mine is page 19, which is hard to see the page numbers on here.
Yeah, it is. And I was going to say to you, have you noticed that these pages are not numbered? They are numbered.
Yeah, at the very top.
There it is.
It's so lightly gray on black, so you can't hardly even see it for us.
So my page 19 says button, who's got the button? Is that
That's the one I want to talk about.
Okay.
So
if you want to talk about it, I'll hold it up.
So this poor girl here, this was written up. The picture was posted in the newspaper. It's the one that's on her left side. As you see there, it's the square looking picture. Yeah, that one right there. Okay. And it was posted in the newspaper November 22nd, 1867. And the reason I really got interested in this is because it taught me something. And I love to learn. I'd love to learn. So this is a picture of a young girl, and she's holding charm string is what they called it.
Oh, and that's right. You talked to me about that.
Yes. So it's a long string of buttons. Now, I had to go back and research this because I had never heard of a charm string before, and it really caught my interest. It piqued my interest, let me say. So I went back and I started researching it, and I found out during that time, these young girls would go around and ask gentlemen for a button off of their waistcoat or something like that. And they would collect these buttons and they would string them up into these long, like garlands. And when they got to 1,000 buttons, the person that gave them the 1,000th button was the man they were going to marry, supposedly. So I thought that was so very interesting. I had to research it and everything because I'd never heard of it. But then I started kicking myself because I told Margo I had gone to a sale one time and this lady had this big long string of old buttons. And I thought about purchasing it, but it was all strung together. I was like, I'll have to cut it all apart and everything. Now I know what it was, and I kicked myself for not purchasing it. But now if I ever find another one, I'll know what it is. So if you ever find something like that, they go for big money online too. Yeah, if you ever find something like that when you're out shopping, purchase it. If it's reasonable, purchase it, because that's part of history that I didn't know anything about. And I just thought it was an amazing story. And it has on here, this was a tintype, and it says the teenage girl on her deathbed shown holding a charm string. In the 1860s, charm string collecting became a favorite pastime of young girls. Buttons and small mementos were collected and sewn onto a string. Many charm string collectors believed that when they got to the 1,000th button, added their string, they would meet the man they would marry. So I just thought that was really cool. That's a lot of buttons to collect.
Well, it is. I mean, how many times have you been at like a garage sale or an estate sale and because I've seen them too, strings of buttons, but it never occurred to me that there would be some type of significance. And now you're going to be looking for that. You'll never see one again, right?
Probably, right.
If you do, you're going to be going, could this be? Could this be?
I'll find one. Don't
worry. Well.
he's going to be able to look out.
Given time, I can find it.
But I just thought that was really interesting. Think how long it took for these teenage girls to collect 1,000 buttons. And what is so haunting to me about this picture in particular is that she's never going to get to that 1,000th button, but she is still holding her charm string. That's like one of her prized possessions that she has that she's holding for this photograph. That's just so haunting to me to realize that she knew at this point that, she was not going to get to that 1,000th button and meet the man that she was going to marry and have a life after that and all that kind of stuff.
What did you do? Chase after him after that?
Yeah, what are you supposed to do? You get that 1,000th one. It's like, now you can't get away.
Hey, Zeus. So I just thought that was really interesting because that kind of thing really just like, it makes you think. you know, the things that they did back then. This was like, you know, they didn't have iPhones and stuff. So they were going out and hitting these guys up for buttons.
And you look really close at that photograph, and that's what it says there. She's got that button charm string. So that's got like well, who knows how many are on that,
Right.
but it looks like it's pretty long, doesn't it?
Yeah. And, you know, I mean, I assume that she had been collecting them for quite some time. And
I wonder, it makes you wonder at what age did some of these girls start doing it? Was there some type of a written kind of thing that, okay, so when you're 12 or what, because obviously women reproduced much younger in those days. So at what point did they start, you know, adding to or initiated their button charm string? I wonder.
From what I was researching, they were saying around 12 years old, 11, 12 years old was about the time that they would go out and start trying to collect these buttons and start their string. And I just thought that, like I said, I just thought that that was like just this hauntingly beautiful tribute that this girl, you know, they did to this girl because she has her charm string with her. So I found that very interesting and, you know, a learning experience for me because I had no clue whatsoever. That's the great thing about this book. It's not just all, death. There's interesting facts in here as well that teach you about stuff during that time. And then just this one picture got to me because it's a Victorian bird sarcophagus. I have never seen a bird. Data Grace, are you in here?
Mm-hmm. Bird alert.
A bird sarcophagus. Look at that. So even their pets, they would memorialize and romanticize death and all that kind of stuff.
And there's a whole section in here on pets. A whole section in this book about pets, deceased pets. What else is fascinating too? Like in the photograph next to that one, it has the girl with the braids. It says circa 1850, sixth plate, something. I can't even tell. Anyway, a gravely ill girl photographed in the last hours of her life. It says, note the fabric behind her likely concealed a person who was helping to support her in an upright position. And you see that a lot with some of these with a big backdrop and stuff, like with the family photos and things. When there's more than one person, there will be like a drape or something behind them or something where somebody can be actually holding up the deceased person, and you can't tell which one it is.
Right. And there was actually, at the time, I watched a whole documentary about this. At the time, they had come out with a stand. Maybe in this book, I think it is.
Yeah, almost like a doll stand, like the stands that we buy dolls on today, a doll stand kind of thing.
Yeah, it's like a doll stand almost that they would put up under their jackets or whatever they were wearing to hold them up so they could take a picture of them after they had passed away. And I was just like, that's amazing. It was a big business then because people that didn't even have much money, they would put a ton of money into memorializing these people with photographs and things like that. You know, even now, I think from what I was reading before, some of these pictures that are in here that have where they put the rosy color on the black and white in the sepia tone pictures, those were the people that had more money. They could pay to have it more like a colorized blush to the cheeks.
Right.
Make them look, you know, more like they did when they were alive.
I mean, you've actually gone through and read some of this. I'm a picture person, so I just flip through and look at the pictures. I don't read every caption, but it's like on this one, I don't know what page number this is because you can't find it on this one. But it says in this poignant, is that how you say that word? Poignant scene, a young girl close to death is comforted by her mother. So they weren't even all deceased yet when they were doing this. It was like bringing in the photographer just before. Because you wonder sometimes too, you know how traditionally for us when a person passes away, they close their eyes.
Right.
They also do something, you know, I can remember when my dad passed away, his caretakers that were with him tied like a little towel kind of around his head and his neck so that his mouth wouldn't hang open. You know, there's things that they do now, but you see these postmortem photography and their eyes are open and stuff, and you're like, you know, so now it kind of explains they weren't all deceased yet. So,
Linda, I didn't see your comment. Yes, they could only get one button from each man. They weren't supposed to double
so
up.
you couldn't pick your favorite and keep going after his buttons, right?
You weren't supposed to go to one guy like take all of his buttons off his clothes like every day.
I wouldn't be able to button his jacket. It's cold outside. I can't even button my jacket because this chick keeps stealing my buttons.
He walks outside and his pants fall to the ground. He's like, I don't have any buttons left. I might have to get married till I get a woman to sew buttons back on my clothes.
Mm-hmm.
And something else that is really interesting to me as well is that a lot of the times when they had children that had passed away, they would have the live siblings pose with them for the pictures. And that is just like, I mean,
well, because photography was kind of more of a privilege kind of thing, and not everybody could afford it. So it wasn't like we are today that the moment our kids pop out, we've got 90 million photos, you know. So they didn't have photos. So this is how they managed to get photos of the siblings all together. God, these pages
like how could they? I mean, that would be so difficult to take a picture with your sibling like that. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, here's some of those hidden mother photos like you were talking about. Like here's one here where somebody's holding
behind the drape, huh? What page are you on for that one?
That is page 62.
Children and family.
And I think, you know, the kid pictures always get me.
This one's interesting. Edith and her triplets, 1888. This, I can't tell. Oh, page, what is that? 44.
Yeah, Linda, exactly. You had to go up and kiss your grandparents goodbye. Yep. I know what you're talking about. That's difficult.
This says the body of Edith Mills, who died during childbirth on September 11th, 1888. At least 2 of the infants in the photo are also deceased. The baby closest to Edith appears to have been stillborn, appears to have still been alive at the time this photograph was taken. So the two, you can almost see the expression.
Yeah, I mean, you can see that one's got like more color to it.
Yeah.
See how that one's not, the other ones, you know, they've lost kind of their color in their face, and that one still has some color to its face.
But look you can see the difference in the color of the triplets too. Look at the one that they're saying was still alive. You can see how the 2 next to it are very faint in color, and that one still has some actual like color to it. So that's probably how they're determining that one was still alive.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Angela.
Hi, Angela. I like the post. I love it, Angela. I would love to. I was telling my mother, I was talking to her on the phone a little bit ago before we came on, that it's my understanding. I have heard that people have started to bring it back. And because I think I think it could be very, very special. I told my mother, I said, I wouldn't mind as a hobby. I don't think I would want to be the photographer because I'm not that artistic, but I would love setting the scenes, helping set the scene and position the body and do that kind of work. I could do that as a side gig. No problem. I would love to do that. I think it should be brought back. It can be done so tastefully.
Yeah. And with like the cameras we have now, and all the, you know, all the programs we have now, I mean, you can make it look
Photoshop and get those sweet little babies. The matching coffins.
Yes.
These Paso twins, twin boys. Oh, see, I would have guessed those were little girls. Twin boys wearing unusual and elaborate funeral headdresses made of white flowers and berries, possibly taken from the mistletoe plant or a flowering dogwood tree, both of which had symbolic spiritual significance. See, that's this one.
That's just a beautiful photo.
Mm-hmm. And you can still walk through old cemeteries, the ones that still have the pictures on the graves, and they're usually, on the headstones, they usually have like a little thing you have to open. And if you walk around some of these older cemeteries and see that, you'll definitely run into some that are children and babies. But they didn't out here anyway. There's one cemetery I like to go to. That's outside of Virginia City. There's one in Virginia City that's great big. They call it the Silver Terrace. But down the road is Gold Hill, and the old Gold Hill cemetery. There's a grave up there that I was discovered one time, and it was dedicated to these two boys. Their last name was Jones, and now I don't remember their first names. It's been a long time since I've been up there. But people had left toys and stuff all over, stuffed animals and toys. And it looked like the stones had been redone. So it turned out I did a little bit of research on it and found out that somebody at one time had actually stolen the stones. And so they redid them. But the story had to do with these two boys. They were like 10 and 12, something like that. And their dad sent them down to the Truckee Meadows to bring home a cow. And from where they're at Gold Hill to go down into the Truckee Meadows would be going down more into the Reno area, kind of. And so that would have been definitely you'd have had to go down in elevation. And I guess a storm hit, and these two little boys were killed in the storm, these two young boys. And when they finally found their bodies, the horse was still there and had stood at their sides and hadn't left. There was a really good story. I wish I could think of the whole thing. Hi, Christy.
Christy.
Okay. So I have two. So I'll put your name on one of them. Yeah, I have two available.
What's that?
So on page 75, there is, you were just showing where they had used the holly or whatever it was on theirs.
Mistletoe,
on their headdress. Mistletoe. Yeah, mistletoe. So here's one on page 75, and they're talking about, it's this little girl, and she's got leaves all over her. And they're saying on here it's acanthus leaves. And they're saying acanthus leaves were widely used in cemetery art, and they symbolized everlasting life.
And who else?
I don't know yet.
Oh, okay.
I haven't
Kind of look like some other leaves that Margo knows of, I think. But those are acanthus leaves.
Hang on, I'm trying to find that when the Brad's talking to me. That's on 75.
We're gonna put a different kind of leaf on Margo when she does this.
Oh, I know which one you're thinking of. My 420 favorite.
Well, you'll see her photos of her casket later, and it'll have a different leaf on it. It won't be acanthus. I'm just letting you know now.
Wow. I've never really looked through that book myself.
75.
I mean, I've seen different parts of it, but I've never. Man.
Two sobering photographs of the same little girl. The first showing her posed in a chair, and the second in her coffin. But look at the one next to it with her posing in her chair. Look at her eyes.
I know. That's before they closed her eyes. So this was the picture before they had her in the chair.
Yeah.
And then this is the picture where they fixed her up and put her in her coffin. It's the same little girl.
Her poor little eyes look like they're black, don't they?
Yeah.
Oh, but I started to tell you too, in that old cemetery up there too, there's other like little plots I have. What? She will get the whole plant. There's other plots that I've seen up there too during those days, during the Comstock area and the gold rush and everything. So we're talking like the 1800s. There was a lot of disease and stuff, and kids just did not, like cholera and stuff like that. And kids didn't survive it. If one kid got it, the rest of them did. And so there's one family plot up there that's got like 5 kids that all died within like days of each other. Then it makes you curious when you watch these programs. Like there's that one about that one lady. She professed to be some type of a nurse or something and used to bring in elderly people, but she was actually poisoning them stuff. And oh no, I think she married, there was some gal who was labeled a serial killer that killed her husband's, all of his kids or something like that. They didn't have the forensics to go back and determine that. So they would blame it on disease when some mean, evil stepmother could actually be poisoning arsenic these kids and stuff.
That's true.
Hi, Anna.
Hey, Anna. We're just talking about
dead people.
Beyond the Dark Veil. Yeah, we're talking about dead people.
I like dead people.
I know it's not everybody's thing, but I think it's very interesting. I have this.
Look how sweet this little girl is, all posed in this little chair or big chair.
That's so funny. I'm on that page.
Or isn't that funny? Look how sweet that is. That's what I'm saying. It can be done so tastefully.
And see, I think that probably had to do a lot with the money aspect of it as well. I think the people that had more money could pay the photographers that would pose them like that to where they look like they had just fallen asleep on a chair or in bed or whatever. Whereas the people that didn't have as much money and had to scrape together to get the picture, you know, they just kind of had them stuck however sometimes. It's kind of sad, but okay. This is a beautiful picture, but look at this picture frame. A little off topic. Look at this picture frame. That picture frame is gorgeous. I would love to find one of those. Some of these frames are amazing. Okay, so there was another thing that I would definitely want to talk about too. It's further back, but I wanted to bring it up because there's a whole section in here which is probably my favorite because it is crime, murder, and tragedy. I'm all about the murder. So here's the picture. I'm going to show you the picture. Oh, I'm going to show you the picture. Oh, we lost Margo. She'll come back. So here's the picture, okay? And this is 8 murdered. What date was this? Oh, it doesn't say the year on here. Hold on, see if I can find the year. 1920. 8 were murdered on a North Dakota farm. Man, his wife, 4 children, farmhand, and another were slain. So this was the photograph they took of the 8 family members in their caskets. What I found so interesting about this, they went on this long manhunt. Yeah, Margo's, I don't know. Hold on, I think she's texting me. So they went on this huge manhunt. Oh, she's rebooting. She'll be back. And it's saying on here that at the time, you know, they didn't know who the killer was, but this man right here, they put like a mark on him. Let me see where he is. I think he's right here. In the very corner of the picture, right over here, you can't hardly see him. He was actually the murderer. He showed up to their funeral. And I was just like, wow. So the guy that actually murdered all these people showed up to their funeral. And they got him on for all time, you know. It's like they have it memorialized in this photograph. And I thought that was really cool. There she is. She made it back.
Yeah. Since it got cold outside, I'm doing this every day. I'm having issues and I'm losing my internet. Am I? She said I'm frozen again. Am I frozen?
Okay now. You're okay now. Can you hear me?
Since it got cold, yeah, since it got cold, I'm dealing with this all the freaking time. It's like I'm having to reboot over and over and over, and I don't know what to do about it. We had AT&T out last year, and they couldn't find anything wrong, and we were actually told by the tech that there isn't enough. We've got the highest that you
loading
can get,
speed or whatever
it is for this area.
For this
But then,
and this guy works for the company, and he's telling
me I should switch to charter.
He's
telling me I should switch to charter. Would you
that.
hush for a minute? He's telling me I should switch to charter, but then it stopped. And during the summer months when it's warm outside, I've had no issues at all. Now it's cold outside, and it's doing it to me again every day.
Weird.
Every day with cold air. I don't know what it is, but anyway. So I was on that page I was trying to show you where you could actually see where they had done like touch-ups on that kid or on those kids. So what other pages did you mark?
So I was Tammy's testing out our membership. So I was on, we were just talking about page 138 and 139. And this was like a whole family, the farmhand and a couple other people were murdered at this farm. And come to find out, they wanted, like I said, they went on this huge manhunt looking for the guy that murdered all of them. And he was actually in this photograph. He came to their funeral.
Oh, that's typical.
Returning to the scene of the crime. But from what the newspaper article says, which is next to it, so you even get to read about it, which I think is the great part of it. The quarrel was over a dog. They were arguing over a dog, and he came back and killed this entire family because of an argument over a dog. So there were crazy people back then too.
But and that's also so not unusual in the case of a lot of people who kill or murder or whatever word you want to use is for them to come back to how do they say it, to the state or the location of the crime, hang out there. So that's not unusual for people to do that. I would imagine probably it was somebody, though I didn't read the whole article, but it was somebody that probably everybody knew, which is also the way a lot of them are. And that way they just kind of mix in with everybody else, and it takes all the suspicion off of them.
Yeah, and if you look at the picture, it says on the far left side right here, and they put like a little X over his head in the picture, the guy that was the murderer. Now, yeah, participate in searches and everything. Yeah, Dana, exactly. They come out and they're like, oh, I'm going to help the family search, and they do all this stuff, and they're the ones that actually did it. It's crazy.
There's an X over his head.
Yeah, that's what it says. I saw it before, but now I can't see it. I have to get the loop out because y'all know I'm blind.
I'm not seeing it either. And I've got my magnifying glass out. Now I'm going to have to really study this picture.
Okay, so the guy, you see where there's like a almost an orb in the picture on the barn right there?
Yes.
Right underneath it, there is a
tiny... I see it now. He's got on almost, it looks like almost like a bobby kind of a hat, like a tall derby kind of a hat. Interesting.
Yep.
Over a dog. So were they mad? So were they mad at the dog, or did they both want the dog?
No, I guess the dog had been barking, and the guy was worried his cattle were going to be upset because their dog was barking. And so he came over there and caused all kind of havoc and everything, arguing about this dog barking and scaring his cattle. And so then he came back and killed the whole family. Which is crazy, crazy, crazy.
Oh, well.
Yep.
Execution or horror. Murders the entire family and tells how he did it. Here's another one on the next page.
Yep.
The Parsons, 1906. Carney and his wife, Minnie, and their children, Jesse, Frank, and Edward. The Parsons were brutally murdered on October 12, 1906, by Joseph Jody Hamilton, a hired hand over a trade gone wrong. Hamilton was convicted of the murders and hanged on December 21st, 1906. See, it didn't take long, like it does these days. You're not going to sit on death row for 30 freaking years. They took him out in 2 months, within 2 months, and hung him. They hung him on December 21st, 1906, in front of a large crowd of more than 600 people. On the first attempt to carry out the sentence, Hamilton slipped from the noose and crashed to the ground. The second attempt was successful.
Well, if you go back a few pages to 132, look at this. The man, the wife, and the baby are together. The reason they're in here is because the wife thought the husband was having an affair. Auburn, New York, January 25th, 1894. Emil, Mary, and 9-month-old Anna Keller in their shared casket. Convinced that Emil was having an affair, Mary shot him through the heart, instantly killing him. Mary then mortally wounded Anna, which was the baby, and then committed suicide.
Well, the picture itself, how they buried them all in a casket together, is actually very sweet, but it's very sad. I wonder if he was having an affair. Hi, Jeannie.
Hey, Jeannie. And see, that's what they're saying. And like the newspaper article with it is talking about, I guess the baby lived for a little while. Shortly after 6 o'clock last evening, death came to the relief of little Anna Keller at the city hospital. It was found that the bullet from the mother's revolver had penetrated the infant's right lung and came out the left side. Throughout the day, throngs of people have visited the undertaking rooms to view the remains. Father, mother, and daughter will be buried in the same casket, which is a special order, about 4 inches deeper and 9 inches wider than ordinary, and covered in gray embossed plush. So I guess she was like, okay, you want us to go stepping out? I wonder if he actually, like you said, I wonder if he actually was, or she just thought he was. Either way, they're gone. Yeah, I mean, it's just very, very interesting. You can spend hours going through this. And then I went over, and the last thing I had marked in here that I really wanted to draw attention to, because we talked so much about like mourning brooches and all the mourning jewelry and all the stuff that people did back then. And so on page 163, there is an actual wreath that was made out of this woman's hair. Ada Mae Duncan.
I watch for those too. I watch for that kind of stuff and hope that somebody doesn't know what they are. Like this funeral piece that I got.
Oh, it's a little girl.
Recently. But there's no hair in it. It's got all the dried flowers.
Aged 2 years, 3 months, and 10 days. On the back of it is a note stating her cause of death, laryngeal diphtheria, an infection of the tonsils that quickly spreads, often leading to death by blood poisoning. Wow. So anyway, I think I look for this kind of stuff too. It is very hard to find because most people do know what it is, but you never know. Sometimes somebody may just be like, oh, the problem is if people don't know what it is, they'll probably throw it away.
Yeah. Well, and you see that you do come across stuff though at some of these estate sales and stuff where, well, an estate company would know, but if you go to a garage sale where they're cleaning out grandma's stuff and just want to get rid of this stuff and don't know what it is, that's where you occasionally get a little bit lucky. So stilled lives. What is this one? 164. Beneath the shedding cypress, numb from the memory of your just lost kindness, I plant an amulet like a seed deep beneath the boughs, amidst the brown needles, your bones still fresh, buried yet deep. Oh, it's a bird. This is a Victorian bird sarcophagus. I wonder if this is like that one on that other page, but it's
Yeah, this
brass
was
and marble.
open.
An elaborate custom. I'm getting glare. Made brass and marble sarcophagus for a pet bird. Inside the shrouded bluebird with a small cross and a handwritten note. Our pet wee wee died Monday, 18th of June, 1874 at 7:55 o'clock. Aw, so they even, what a beautiful little shrine to the bluebird, huh? To their pet bluebird. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Linda, it is.
So that was somebody that had money, because that probably cost more than a lot of people's whole
Uh-huh.
final kind of thing, Which division of, a division of the classes back then was such a large gaping division compared to what it is. And, we have our billionaires and stuff now, but back then it was like either you had or you didn't have. And so, if you were in the didn't have part, you did what you could. You sold everything you could to take care of somebody's final arrangements. And then the had could do something like that for their bird, which is pretty sad.
Mm-hmm.
It's cool they did it, but when you realize they probably spent more on that than a lot of people's entire funeral cost, it's pretty sad.
Yeah, you don't see those big elaborate crypts like you used to see either. There's one in a cemetery in Milford, Connecticut that I've been to twice, and I was there because when my dad did our genealogy many, many, many years ago. A lot of our people that came over here from England came over in the early 1600s, and they settled in that Milford, Connecticut area. And so I had seen pictures of one of the graves. And so when I was there one time, I was able to go to this old cemetery and immediately find this grave. It's one that stands up. It's I don't know, up off the ground, maybe 3.5, 4 feet. And so it belonged to like my 8th great grandfather. But anyway, within that same cemetery, it's called the Old Burial Ground in Milford, Connecticut. There is a great big, I don't even know what to call it, kind of a crypt type of thing, but it's a dedication to a man whose name was Nathan Baldwin. And this crypt, it sits up off the ground and then and then it's glass. On the top of it is like a glass enclosure, and it's got a great big sculpture of like a weeping woman, like weeping over like I don't know, like a chaise lounge kind of a thing, I think I would call it. I'm not sure, but it's the prettiest, I'll send you a picture sometime. I think I've got a picture of it in my phone somewhere on the computer. It's just beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. And you don't see that type of an ornate dedication of a grave anymore. I don't know. Some of it has to do with these days. Of course, we're a lot more simple on it, but also we don't have the land, and people can't afford that kind of money either to build something like that.
And you saying that brings this right into focus. This would be mine if I was going to be buried instead of cremated. See, again, talking about people that didn't have money.
Yeah, I was just looking at that too. That reminds me of the movie like Lonesome Dove out in the middle of the boonies or something. And that's or maybe like the Bowers family or somebody like that. They had the family cemeteries behind on their properties. Up in the woods. What is this one? Visitors at the original mountain grave site of the American writer and activist Helen Hunt Jackson on Cheyenne Mountain in Colorado. Yeah, that would be more like it.
That would be more like, what I would be able to afford. Y'all go get some rocks.
Mm-hmm. I told my girls, they're like,
find me a place below some pine trees and throw some rocks on me.
I don't like any of the options. Oh, see, this is kind of like what is superimposed in that one I was telling you about, but it's all like encased in glass, is something very similar to this.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Mm-hmm. anyway, I've told my kids for actually what I want, my choice would be to go to like the Body Farm, which I understand there's one in Texas now. I was thinking you had to go to Kentucky, but I think it's somebody told me recently there is one in Texas now. So send me there and just put me out in the elements and study me as I decompose, or go to the University School of Medicine and let them dissect me and I can watch from above. That would turn me on to be able to watch probably.
So if you don't have a copy of this, I think Margo says she has one more copy left. So hit her up for it.
One, I had two, but one is claimed. So if anybody, and I'm selling them for like $25, you guys. So if anybody wants one, I have one left. So if anybody wants it, just put in whoever puts in the number 25 real quick can get it. And they're sealed copies too. They're not even see, they're still sealed in the plastic and everything. And see how nice these books are.
Yes. If you have somebody that's interested in this stuff on your Christmas list, that'd be an excellent gift for them as well.
The pages, it's all gilded. It's all very nice bound, beautifully gilded hardback.
In the back, there's a glossary of terms, which if you always wondered what is the difference between an albumin print, an ambrotype, cabinet card, a daguerreotype, a dry plate process, it tells you all of what those are and how they were done. So you get an idea. Tintype, wet plate process, memento mori. I mean, they have like all these glossary terms in the back that you can learn things from, which I think is amazing because, a lot of people just call every old picture a tintype. They're not all old tintypes. There's different processes they used when they took, pictures. They did photography back then and it tells you about all of them in here. So you can kind of get an idea, like instead of having to look up every word on Google, they're all in here for you. So you can go through and learn all about the different types of photography and everything and learn, the differences so that when you're looking at these photographs out in the wild, what they are. If you're interested in that. I mean, I guess some people wouldn't care, but I think it's really cool.
Well, I like this too. So you get to the part on pets, and right on the other side of where that starts, it shows Lost Companion, circa 1846. Amos R. Monroe with his deceased spaniel. And that has that daguerreotypes are mirror images. Daguerreotypes are mirror images. Amos's hand was actually placed over his heart in a gesture of mourning. How interesting in that is that? See on this one.
Oh, yeah. And then look at this picture of the dog on his master's grave. Oh, my gosh. Oh, it's almost too much. Animals get me too. I'm sorry, but they do.
Oh, the animals get me first. It's like, do you ever watch those horror movies? You watch a horror movies with the slayer or the axe murderer or whoever, and he's going after somebody and a dog comes around. It's like, don't you get that dog? You leave the freaking dog alone. You don't care that he's about to go in and hatch at a human being or, slice him up, but you don't harm the dog. Yeah. But look at even in the movie, The Silence of the Lambs with the guy. He loved his little Precious, that little honey poo dog he had.
Yeah, he loved Precious. But see, that's the thing. Like even when I'm watching, stuff like the police shows, when they're out going after the bad guy, doing all that, like the real life, kind of thing. When they get the canine unit out, I start freaking out. I'm like, no, don't send the dog in there. I'm afraid he's going to get hurt. I mean, this is how ridiculous I am.
If the dog dies, I don't want exactly. Dana agrees. Look at this one with the pugs. These two, the two there are alive, and the other one, they posed all three of the pugs together. Oh. And it says she's got on her the two pugs posed with their companion who is deceased and wearing a mourning ribbon and bow around its waist. So that's a mourning ribbon and bow.
Well,
dog.
in light of everything we talked about tonight, I threw a few bags together if anybody's interested in like a souvenir of our show. But I did these bags. There's over 20 vintage to antique buttons in each. If you want to start your own charm string and make your own, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these bags of buttons for $5 each. You can just put it in the chat if you would like a bag of the old buttons. They're all like metal buttons, old metal buttons. So you can start your own. You can start stringing them together and collect them as you go. But I do have 5 available. If anybody wants those, you could let me know. And that was like my little souvenir for watching our show. If anybody was interested, you gotta have a souvenir. You go to these, you go to shows and stuff. You got to get a souvenir at least. We don't have programs, so
Look at, and look, here's the kind of thing, you see this kind of, if you ever watch any of these programs on old, the way that they used to do it, like, they used to keep the body in the house sometimes, like for a few days. And so they had these cooling tables that actually had a thing underneath them that held the ice so that it could keep the body cool while it was on display for the family to come and pay their last respects.
All right, Tammy wants 3 of the bags, so there's 2 left. If anybody wants, 1 or 2 of the other ones, you can start your own charm string. And you can just tell, everybody that, you got them off a bunch of guys out somewhere. You can make up a whole story and say, you went out, and, pestered a bunch of guys for their buttons. And
I love this stuff. And it's funny when you're in like old antique malls and stuff, and they have, you find a vendor who's got all of the photos and everything that you can flip through. And I'm sure that they've gone through them pretty much these days now that they realize that some people have an attraction to it. But it's, you pick up some of those old cards and you look at them and you wonder, you just have to wonder, you look for little signs and signals and in these photographs that maybe there's some type of a giveaway that somebody in that photograph could have been deceased.
And now it's like, even when I was looking through these pictures, I found myself looking like behind the actual focal point to see if I could see any spirits or anything like showing up in the pictures. I know it's weird. I know, but I couldn't resist it. It's like, I'm like looking in there and going, okay, is that like an orb? What is that? Like I'm trying to figure out what it is. But, that's the kind of thing I'm interested in. So I'm sick. I know, y'all. You don't have to tell me. It's okay. But yeah, definitely pick up a copy if you don't have one and you're interested, just because.
I only have one more.
You have no metal buttons.
This one you can see where the photo's been color enhanced.
Mm-hmm.
And they used to do that manually. I can remember when I was a kid, my grandfather had his own studio, and everything even then was done in black and white. And then they had people that worked for him that actually, watercolored on these photos to bring in the color of the cheeks and the different tones and everything. I've got pictures of my mother where they've actually, painted on the lipstick and the eyeshadow and the makeup. So it's, it was all hand touched.
Liz says, stay out of my closet.
Dana Gray says she can't watch Marley. The movie Marley.
I can't watch
anything with an animal. No.
Here, I'll show you some of these that I've got because they are cool. They're like old metal buttons. Look at that. See if it's going to focus for you.
Buttons.
Yeah, look at this one.
It would be neat to see if somebody actually would take those buttons and start them on like a button. What do they call it? And a charm string.
Mm-hmm. This one's got mother of pearl back behind the metal. You can see it kind of flashing when I move it.
This is the same.
I thought this one was cool. Look at this. This is a crown. A metal crown. It's like Crown Royal. Except a button. But there's all different ones in there. Some of them have more age than others, but I thought they were really cool. Yeah, you could easily start your own charm string. And even if you only had even if you only got up to like 100 buttons or, whatever, at least you'd have a good little string that you could display somewhere. And honestly, you don't have to be all authentic and do all the old antique buttons. I think that's probably where, I don't know, but this is just my mind thinking, where like the button garlands that people put on their Christmas trees, I think that may be where that originated from. So you can make your own button garland out of colors that you use on your Christmas tree, but it's, the same idea. But I just thought it was interesting. I get it. I fall down these rabbit holes and I don't get out of them for a while. Like I get stuck in them and I stay there. Like I take a lunch because I know it's going to be a while. You're welcome, Linda.
See, some of these, like, look at this one, and their eyes are just like wide open. If you didn't know better, you wouldn't know that person was actually deceased. That little one there, she evidently had been sick with a fever for a while. It says if you look really close, you can see little blisters around her mouth.
Yeah,
which is an indication of a high fever. This one, she just looks like she's resting.
No, we don't have any old metal ones. I love y'all. So I wanted to show this. This is something I have, that kind of goes along. This is something I have in my curiosity cabinet that I usually have sitting over there. And it's one of the last rites, crucifix, the wooden ones with the candles. I have that in my curiosity cabinet. And I love this one. This is not Maury, oh my gosh, I can't even think of the word of it now. But the one that's got the skull on it, this is just one of the regular old rosaries. But what I liked about this is it is onyx. It's an old onyx rosary. And it is marked France on the back.
See, I have.
So I keep this in my curiosity cabinet. I love this piece. Look how big this crucifix is. It is amazing.
Knock that over.
And it's got the onyx beads on it. I don't know the age of it. And I haven't tested it to see if it is silver, although it looks like it might be, but I haven't tested it. It's just marked ebony on the back. But I love this one. That's why I kept this. I had a bunch of crucifixes or rosaries that I come across, and I ended up keeping this one because I loved the black on it. I thought it went really well with my cross over here. I thought it matched well. I'm trying to accessorize my cross here.
See, I have, and I think I got this from you.
Maybe.
This one. And I think what the reason that I got it, see how it kind of bends underneath? It was indicated.
Yeah, you did get that from me. I remember that.
On top of a coffin.
Yep.
So that's why I snatched that one. So that stays in my cabinet of curiosities. And then I have this. Now, this came out of our family collection. Yeah, okay, this is Harriet Amanda Burnham. And my grandfather's name was Sidney Burnham. So the Burnham must have been a family name on his side. And so this maybe was his mother. And it says and so it's an old tin type that I have in there too. I'm getting a lot of glare. Beautiful. Sorry about that. And that's just one of these little ones. And I see these from time to time in antique malls, and they ask a lot of money for them.
Mm-hmm.
See, it's got like a little case. Or maybe I think it was a frame. Oh, I see how this goes. See, this has a little latch on this side. God, if you can get it through there so you can actually open it this way. That's a, Tammy says it's a, how do you say that? The Daguerreotype. I saw that word in there. It's like daguerreotype or something like that. But this is really nice when you look at it too. Look at all of the gold like embellishment around that little part of the frame. It's really pretty. And then velvet on this side. And it does have the little thing over here. A little like a hook and eye kind of thing that latches it together. I'm not going to toy with it right now to get it back together, but I will. And then I have, this is Lingering Memories. This was somebody's funeral book. Oh, look, here's a Mr. William Snyder. Oh, no, that's not that one, I don't think. Maybe it is. Let's see. Yeah, William Snyder, June 9th, 1867. Cedarville something. He died August 3rd, 1939. So this is his memorial record. And it's got stuff about the funeral and it's got the names of the bearers, the pallbearers over here. Little funeral book. I don't remember where I got this. Here's your visitors, people where the visitors signed that went to the funeral.
I've already told Tammy Renee when I die, if I, because I know I'll go first, but when I die, she's got to text everybody that's on my list and just say something to them to freak them out.
It's up here on the wall, Dana Grace. I've got it up here on the wall. I don't know if you can see it over there. See, without me getting up and taking it over there. But I went ahead and hung it in my office. And it's a picture of, it looks like it's the picture of the person in the casket. No, you don't really see the person. It must be the casket is closed and it's got all of the floral arrangements. Then a picture of the lady up here surrounded by a floral wreath. And then it's got all these dried flowers around it. So I'm assuming in my head, you can tell there's some ferns and stuff, that probably these flowers were off of some of these arrangements and framed with the picture. The frame itself is not in great shape. And someday I'll take it down, but I'm not going to pull it down right now.
Hey, Georgia.
I had it in the estate sale. Just in the last couple of months, I snatched that. They had it up on the wall, and I was like, do you know what that is? And somebody said, that's a funeral piece. I said, I know that's exactly what it is. And it didn't have a price on it. So I asked them how much, at the estate sale they wanted for it. They said $30. I said, sold. I'm taking it.
Definitely.
$30. I expected them to come up higher than that.
I would have been like, do you have any more? Is that the only one here?
There was another old photography up on the wall, but nothing that screamed funeral like this one absolutely is a funeral piece. So that's why it was
at my grandmother's house, which I think my cousin got that. I'm going to have to look into it. At my grandmother's house, they had one of the, when they did the picture that was like it looked almost like a gravestone. It was in the black and white, and then it had like the convex glass over it.
Mm-hmm.
One of those. They had one of those hanging. I remember that from my childhood, that hanging in my grandparents' house. I don't even know whose it was, anything about it, some member of the family from way back when. And I was like, I thought about that the other day. I was like, I wonder where that is. I bet one of my cousins had. I'm gonna have to go up to Alabama, y'all.
And that's something we haven't done a lot when we've been in the South, is go visit cemeteries. And that's something I would definitely like to do when I'm in the South. Because the one thing I have been able to visit them on the East Coast, like when I was in Massachusetts. I went to cemeteries there. And the one in Connecticut I've been to twice. The first time I was out there was 20-ish years ago. And then when Brad and I were out there last year and realized that we were like 30 minutes away from Milford, I was like, hey, drive me to Milford so I can see if I can find this cemetery again. And he did that for me. And again, I was able to find that grave just like boom going in there. And it's fascinating because out in the West, I mean, our old cemeteries are dating into the 1800s, but you go back to the East Coast and you get clear into the late 1500s, 1600s. If you want to spend a day wandering around some of the, if you like old cemeteries, that's the place to go to see a lot of it. So, but I'd like to see some from the South.
When I go back up to visit my mom, where my grandma, where my family on her side are buried, is a very old cemetery. It's one of those that was like, there used to be a church there, and now the church is gone, but it's still just like this really, really, the kind that has like the old iron fence around it kind of thing, and there's like the big, huge, tall tombstones that have pieces knocked off of them, and just from age and the weathering, and I was like, I need to go back up there, just one, to go back up because I have a lot of family buried there, but I would like to do some rubbings on some of them, and just take them down, because it was the last time I was there, it was really quick trip, didn't get a chance to go, and I wanted to go really bad. But I remember as a child going up there, because in the South we have what you call decoration. And it's one Sunday out of the year that you go visit the cemetery and you decorate it. You clean the cemetery off, you put fresh flowers on or whatever, make sure that it looks good, all that kind of stuff. In the South, we call it decoration. And so we would go every year on decoration to the cemetery of where, our loved ones were, our ancestors were buried. And you would, clean off anything that was overgrown. And if it was like a really old one and you knew that there was nobody still left alive in that family to take care of it, everybody got together, even if you didn't know these people that were there on that day. All the men would get together and clean off the ones that had been left, to kind of grow. And, just to make it nice, kind of, rest in peace, to be, respectful to the dead kind of thing. So it was a huge thing. We'd all get together, you did a whole picnic thing. It was like a huge thing every year. And I still remember going to decoration. I still remember walking around and looking at some of these tombstones. And some of them were just, a little flat piece of something on the ground. Some of them were just a little cross. Some of them, didn't even have markers. There were some that had no markers whatsoever. You just knew they were there. And I remember going through, and like you said, there were some like 15 such and such, 1500s, 1600s, 1700s. And it was just amazing to me that something like that was there. As a child, I was like, just still, wow. And they had crypts.
I can spend all day. I can spend all day walking around cemeteries like that. I totally enjoy that. When we were in Louisiana, when we were in New Orleans, we the day that we left there, we were asking at our hotel desk. I wanted to go to one of those New Orleans cemeteries where they have the high crypts and everything. You walk around. We found a couple of smaller ones when we were out driving around looking for thrift stores, but I wanted to go to one of those big, elaborate ones. And so we asked at the hotel desk, and she said, there's one right up the street. She told us exactly how to get to it. So we went, we found it, and we parked, and we walked up to it. And they had security standing there, and you couldn't go in unless you were part of a guided tour. They were only opening them up to like guided tours that were scheduled. I think he said the next one was even scheduled for a couple hours or something. And Brad and I weren't going to hang around. And he said they started doing it that way, that you could only come in that way, or if you could prove that you were related to somebody in there or something like that, because people had been coming in there doing unspeakable things. So they weren't just letting anybody randomly come into that cemetery, at least anymore. And it was very close to this downtown kind of area where we were at. And we had passed one coming in. I saw off of the highway coming in, but I don't know whether we would have been able to find that one again, or if we would have been dealing with the same kind of circumstance, even if we went and searched for it, whether we'd be able to go in. Right. So I wanted to do that. I'd love to go explore some of those southern cemeteries.
Yeah, it's really interesting because, they talk about, kind of a little off topic, they talk about how a southern accent, if you look at the lilt of a southern accent and how it flows, it's the most closely related to a British accent or a European accent of any of the accidents in the United States. And if you like speed us up a little bit, whatever, and you look at the flow of it, well, when you go to these cemeteries, it's almost like we carried over a little bit, like what we're talking about here with the Victorian thing about death and memorializing people and all that. If you look at an old Southern cemetery, you see that still. You see that people memorialized it. Like I said, we went every year. It was a thing you were expected to do. It was every year the family showed up to take care of that plot, and it was just like, it wasn't like a party necessarily, but yeah, we all got together.
It almost sounds like
reunion.
It almost sounds like one of those, like a Dia de los Muertos kind of a celebration. Now, see, out here, the big cemetery in Reno is called Mountain View. There is also a Catholic cemetery that's a little further away from there, but most of Mountain View is like the public type cemetery. There is some Catholic sections in it, and they have these areas I've noticed. And so they take care of it. They maintain the grounds, and they do all the gardening. And if you go to visit a loved one and the gravestone, down below isn't clean, they'll send somebody up to, trim the grass around it and everything if you go and complain to them. But there's some areas that are overgrown. And so I inquired about those one time, because there's also a sign in this section that says it's a non-endowment, and I didn't understand what that meant. And what was explained to me is that these non-endowment areas you have to maintain those grave sites yourself, or the family has to. It's not up to the cemetery to be sure that it's gardened and cleaned and weeded and all of that. And that's why it's so overgrown and such, because the families of most of these people have, departed themselves now. And so nobody goes up and takes care of those sections. Once in a while, you'll see it cleaned up, but not very often. Most of the time it's overgrown.
Well, it's really funny, like where my father is buried, because we took him back to the family plot where his parents were buried and everything, in the town where my parents grew up. The one he is buried at was the one that was an actual, like, taken care of. Like they had a company that came in and took care of everything and all that kind of stuff. Now, the one where my mother's family, the old cemetery, it's like probably 10 miles away. It's an old one. It's like there's nothing there. You drive down the road and there's just a cemetery over there on the side of the road. And you can tell probably nobody's been buried there in a very long time. I don't think there's even any plots left. And there is no care. It is all family care. If the family doesn't come in and take care of it, nobody takes care of it. It will just grow completely overtaken with vines and kudzu and everything and just craziness. But yeah, I mean, it's close to, it's always in the spring. We would get together and do it because that's when everything starts growing again. So we would go in the springtime, start trimming everything back. The men, they would all be dressed nicely, and then they would change into work clothes to go out to the cemetery, work on the cemetery for several hours. The women would come out there and bring them iced tea and do all that kind of stuff. And the kids would run around and play on the cemetery. And, and that was the day. And then we'd go back to somebody's house. We would eat. We'd hang out. The men would get, cleaned up and put their nicer clothes back on. And it was just like an entire day for the family to get together and remember somebody. It's really actually a beautiful thing that I think, in this day and age, we've lost a lot of, which is kind of sad. And I think that's why I'm so attracted to this book in general, is because it was a memorialization. People cared about those people. I'm not saying we don't, but we get so busy with life that we don't take care of things like we used to, especially the younger generation. Unfortunately, I'll be lucky if I make it into a shoebox. So
there's a gal that's got a YouTube channel. Her name is, I think it's Caitlin Dowdy, and her YouTube channel is Ask a Mortician. she comes up with some very fascinating stories, but she also and she goes back. I haven't seen her do much, release much lately, but she would go back and talk about various things. There's also a guy named Lamont at Large that I like to follow too, and he goes around talking about all kinds of crime kind of stuff and visits a lot of cemeteries and stuff. And those are really interesting. But Caitlin, she talks about what her, and she's an actual mortician, and she will talk about what her attitude is about today's funerals and the way that we take care of them now. And she's fully into like the whole natural thing and putting the body in the earth and the decomposition kind of thing. There's because you can do these caskets now instead of buying these caskets that are kind of meant like to preserve you for as long as it possibly will. But the body these days, you don't have to be embalmed anymore either. I mean, they have so much technology now that there's not going to be any question when you're dead, you're dead. So regardless of what kind of a coffin they put you in, you're going to decompose. That's just all there is to it. But she talks about they have coffins now that you can get that are just like straw and natural things. So when they put you into the earth, you don't go into like a cement vault kind of thing that's going to protect you. It does allow you to decompose into the earth and everything, and eventually, be absorbed by the earth again. And I like that kind of idea too, although I'm not real keen on just being down in the dirt for some reason. I don't know why, but well, of course, if I'm going to go out into a body farm and let them put me out in some element, then that's going to happen inevitably too. So there's just no pretty way to go about it, I don't think. Hi, Melissa.
Well, I have already told my kids I'm working towards setting it aside for them. So when something does happen to me, I want to be cremated, which is a little terrifying. I hope I'm completely dead and gone when they start doing that, because I don't want to be burned up. But I want to be cremated. I want them to take my ashes. I want them to go scuba diving with my ashes and take it down underwater. And there is actually a place down here in the Keys that has these, it's almost like it's like a fake coral. And they have these little holes in there, and you can deposit the ashes into the little hole, and you become part of like living coral in the ocean.
So you
now
that's like cool.
Back, you're kind of giving back to the earth, ashes to ashes, dust to dust.
There is another form of cremation too that's done like hydroponically, and I can't remember what it's called, but it's done with water, and it still comes out almost the same with like some type of ash and then a little bit of bone material left that would have to be crushed, just like with the fire type cremation, but it's done with water. And I don't know exactly how it works, but I've heard of it. So
I know of this because when my daughter had an animal that passed away a few years ago, the crematorium we took the animal to, they actually did it that way. I had never heard of it until then. And I was like, that's
your standard way, or did you have a choice on how you wanted it?
You had a choice.
If you wanted to do the fire or the water.
Yep.
Interesting. See, and I don't think that they're doing anything with it here yet. I think it probably would have to be legislated. Maybe with animals they could, without the same type of legislation as with humans. And then you're going to get these funeral directors and funeral services that are going to dispute it for all kinds of reasons, because they don't want to lose any money or encourage people. I mean, realistically, they make more money as a business by selling, these high dollar coffins and probably burial plots, and they don't make that kind of money when you do a direct cremation and you want to bring your loved one home. You're not buying a plot or anything for it. So,
and we are running out of land. I mean, let's be realistic here. How many thousands of years we had that people have been dying and being buried and being buried and being buried, and we're out of space now. So it's like, throw me in the water.
Well, aren't there some areas, and I don't know if it happens in the U.S. or maybe if it's more like a European kind of thing, is some kind of thing where they can, after a certain period of time, dig up plots and resell them or something, remove what's ever in them and resell them or something. I think there's some kind of, And it may not be here in the US. It may be some place abroad or something like that where they actually do that thing after like so many years, 100 or 200 years or something. Then they go ahead and, I don't know, do they rototill it? No idea.
I wanted a Viking funeral where they put me out on, a pyre on a boat and send me out there, and, my kids shoot flaming arrows at me or whatever. But I know they would never get away with that because, the police would show up, the fire department would probably put me out. I know we can't do that. So,
see, Melissa says she's heard of that too, and I don't remember where it is that where maybe it's in France or something. And that's something else I'd like to do someday is go to the catacombs. I would love to see the catacombs. That's just right up my alley. So, haven't done that yet.
All right, guys. Well, we're not going to bore you with, talking about death any longer.
So I have one book left. If anybody wants it, snatch it. It's a sealed version of Beyond the Dark Veil. I have one left, and that's all I have, and that's the end of them for my stash anyway. And they were originally $29.95. I'm asking $25 for it. I have one left. So if anybody wants it, put in 25. The first person puts in 25, and the book's yours. So I only have one left. Besides,
so I'm glad you guys came and hung out with us. I had a blast talking about this. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Maybe we'll have to get together and talk about some other craziness soon. Who knows?
Oh, I'm sure we can do that.
We can figure out something crazy to talk about.
Get through the holidays. Right now, my house is such a mess, and I want to get some decorations up. My office is still a mess. We're trying. Brad's kind of trying to help me get some stuff out of here, but I got the tree up. I've got some ornaments on it, but I've also run out of, I can't find my hooks. I don't know where my hooks are, so I'm going to have to get some more hooks so I can hang some more ornaments.
Well, Linda, you take care of yourself and all that snow, honey.
Oh, yeah, be careful. I know. All right,
thanks
y'all.
So much for coming, guys.
Thanks for hanging out.
So I'm having a sale tomorrow here on my channel with Jen Eads at 3:00 Eastern time. We're going to be doing our Secret Santa sale, and it's going to be one of our quickie sales, as we call them. It's a quickie, y'all. We're having a quickie tomorrow. It's going to be Secret Santa one, and we're going to be having it where if you guys want to purchase something for someone else in the community or outside the community, if you have their address, whatever, we can send it to them. Again, everything's going to be like $2, $3, $4, $5 flat price. So a great way to stock up on a few things for Christmas if you want to, or buy them for yourself. We all deserve a few presents for ourselves as well. And then Wednesday I'm off. Well, not off, but I'm not on here. And then Thursday I'll be back at 9 p.m. again for another live sale. It'll be all just vintage stuff. I don't know if I'm going to do Christmas this time or just vintage. I don't know. I got a lot of Christmas, so I may do Christmas again. And then Margo will be on Friday night, 7
Eastern, 7:20, because now I go on at 4:20 my time because I have a 4:20 friendly channel.
There you go.
7:20 now at 4:20 my time. 7:20 East Coast.
7:20 East Coast. So make sure you check her out as well. And again, guys, thank you so much for coming and hanging out with us. If you are not already subscribed to Margo, make sure you go over to Vintage Peep Show a Go. Hit that subscribe button and make sure you get subscribed to her. She has great sales every week as well. And if you're not subscribed to me, make sure you hit my subscribe button. Hit my buttons, y'all. Go ahead, play with my buttons. So
you got a whole string of those buttons. You've been out there grabbing them off of men's jackets. Give me your buttons. Give me your buttons.
I'm not saying where I got them from. So, we're going to keep that a secret. There's a lot of men that are falling down right now, y'all, just so you know. But anyway, have a great night. Thanks for coming. Stay kind, stay blessed, and stay safe. If you're having bad weather, Linda. And we'll talk to y'all later. Bye,
Happy
everybody.
trails.